Welcome back to the Daily Dribble podcast, guys. As always, I'm your host, Nick Zammett, here recording on a very, very hot Tasmanian day, the 15th of January. We are sweating absolute bullets here. Joining me, Mr. Lamb Hancock. How are you, my man?
I'm good. Yeah.
Mate, it's no better day to be on the beverages than today, is it?
I mean, it's hot, but it's not a good hot. It's a humid hot, and you've been burnt. You look like a cherry tomato.
I had a little soccer game this morning, so I got a little bit of colour. Yeah. Certainly feeling it. I was sweating bullets. I was so hot, but nevertheless made it here in one piece.
I was sweating bullets at the tip shop, though.
At the tip shop?
Now, I think it's those masks.
Now, what did you find at the tip shop, Lee? Any goodies?
Absolutely shit there. Nothing.
That's why it's the tip shop. There you go. Also joining us, Mr. Roy Hancock. How are you, mate?
Yes, good, very good. Another big week of basketball. It's
broken records, but every week is a big one, isn't it? And we are absolutely buzzing for today's show. We've got the second part of our two-part series on our mid-season grades. Last week, if you haven't already, check it out. We did our Eastern Conference grading. Today, we're following it up with the West.
So yeah, we said last week, didn't we? The West, we're going to have a bit of variance, I reckon,
I think
today's
so.
grading.
I hope so.
East were pretty much on the same page, which I think is to be expected. But the West,
it's like a box of chocolates, isn't it? You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah. Yep.
There you go. Forrest, have you seen Forrest Gump?
I have. It's one of the
some movie, isn't it? There you go. But before we get into it, guys, we'll also do some odds and ends. Just want to quickly do a bit of housekeeping. Be sure to stay up to date with all of our socials: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok.
Oh my goodness.
TikTok has gone off this week. We crossed our second video of our presence on TikTok to cross over 100,000 views.
So. And what better man to get us over the line than Matty Dellavedova? Yeah. I mean,
they'll have statues erected of him here pretty soon, I would imagine.
I'm surprised they don't already, but no, the TikTok's well and truly.
Isn't it it's just such a fun thing, TikTok, because you can just the explosion, any video can just explode at any given moment, as this one did. So it's nice to be viral, isn't it, lads?
It is. It's only growing, though.
Absolutely. So, guys, check that out. Subscribe wherever you listen to the show. Do all that good stuff for us. We really appreciate it. And just quickly, we've got a big announcement. Now, we're going to tease it today and then unveil it next week.
Yes.
We've got a big partnership lined up that we're very, very excited to announce. We'll give you all the details and things of the kind next week. But contracts have been signed. It's all happening. Big things in the works. Very, very excited about that. So we look forward to sharing that with you next week, as well as our continued support from Intersport Hobart. Guys, check them out. We just got in some new Wilson basketballs yesterday.
I saw that.
They're looking pretty good. They're pretty dope. So very excited about that and their continued support. We certainly appreciate it. And the Spotlight Sports Network. The latest and greatest, bringing you all the hottest NBA podcasts and YouTube channels from around the NBA, the MLB, NFL, NHL, everything going on. They are your one-stop shop for everything sport. So check them out on YouTube, Facebook, guys, Spotlight Sports Network.
Do you want to remind the viewers again when they can watch our episodes on the Spotlight Sports Network? They can watch it on our channel, obviously.
On our channel, absolutely. It also drops on YouTube on a Wednesday morning here in Australia time.
Yes.
So, yeah, very, very happy to be a part of the network there. Just quickly, a little a point, as is a common theme at the moment. For any of our YouTube watchers out there, a little bit of a technical lag at the moment, but nevertheless, we are plugging away here, fighting the good fight. So,
as always, we'll find before the podcast started. As soon as we press record, it's downhill. But no,
it'll wind itself out, won't it? It does. It's just a little minor blip. So stay with us, guys. We're looking forward to a big episode. Without further ado, let's get into it. I might kickstart us with an odds and ends here. A piece of news I was very excited to see was the Indiana Pacers extending Lance Stevenson's contract. He is now guaranteed for the rest of the season.
It is the rest of it. Because I saw a second 10 days. Is it the rest of the season?
I saw the rest of the season till season's end. So,
well, it would have been an utter shock if he didn't get that extended contract, given how amazing he played in those
couple of games. He's been on fire. And, as much as the Pacers are flailing a little bit, he has really been a bright spark just in terms of his output, in terms of his energy, in terms of his excitement. It's really what the Pacers needed. So,
well, their season, even though it doesn't look like it's going to improve anytime soon, he brings them a bit of electricity because at the moment they seem very stagnant and they seem almost boring. And bringing a player like Lance Stevenson, who has a lot of personality, it gets bums on seats.
It does. It does.
Which is great.
Absolutely. So very excited about that.
Clay's debut. He came back this week and he had a pretty good game. He got 17 points, 3 rebounds and 1 assist. But probably my favorite bit of the game was they had to center that first play around Clay, which they did. But
it wasn't actually drawn up that way.
Was it not?
It was Steve Curry, as he mentioned in an interview after the game. It was actually drawn up as kind of a decoy. Clay got the ball and just, as is customary with Clay, decided to put it up nevertheless. So 2 points, got himself on the scoreboard early. As we put up a post during the week, my, I guess, favorite thing about that was the fact his athleticism, after 2 seasons out, did not look diminished at all.
No.
He looked like the Clay of old and certainly bodes well for the Warriors moving forward. And for him as well, like, it was good to see him. You know, we always know that outside shot's going to be there.
Oh, yeah.
But his athleticism, even on that first play to drive in, really exciting. So can't wait to see what he can do.
It almost looks like, it's crazy to think, but it almost looks like he's added another aspect of his game.
Yeah.
As you said, he's always been that catch and shoot type player. There's been nothing wrong with his outside shot. Probably go down as one of the best
without a doubt
shots at the end of his career. But he's added that sort of inside game, driving to the rim to his repertoire.
It's like the next evolution now, isn't it? After a couple of seasons out, the game has certainly changed since he last played. Seen a lot more small ball lineups and things. The kind of game has certainly evolved. So certainly looking to see how he adapts.
When you're out for that long, you get hungry. You want to be back in. You want to drive to the basket. And something I also noticed about his first game back, he wants to defend as well. His defense was pretty on point.
He's always been a massive defender.
Yeah.
Defender.
Yeah, he was really there in that game, which I like to see.
Very exciting on that front. Also, a little bit of news here for the Bulls. Now, Derrick Jones Jr., he'll be out for 2 to 4 weeks with bone bruising in his right knee. A bit of a blow there. They also saw today Zach Levine go down pretty early against the Warriors. It's not suspected to be serious. He'll have an MRI over the next day or so. So hopefully a quick and speedy recovery for him. But, it's not ideal for the Bulls. No. Caruso's still out at the moment. He had COVID protocols as well as an ankle injury. Pat Williams still out as well. So there's a couple of players there still to come back for them. So hopefully a quick recovery for both Levine and Derrick Jones Jr. there.
Bit of news that broke my heart a little bit. Bol was sent off to Detroit. He was meant to be sent off to Detroit in a trade. I can't tell you the exact.
The actual trade for that one, it was Bol going to Detroit,
Yeah.
Rodney McGruder and a second round pick going to the Nuggets. So
yeah. And
I liked it just in the sense, I think Bol, Detroit have so many young players. They're not going anywhere at the minute. So there would have been opportunity for Bol to flourish. To be.
He hasn't passed his physical. And it just breaks out. So he's going back to the Nuggets and he's going back to the bench. But it just breaks my heart. But I guess it does fall back on Bol.
It does fall back on him 100%. He can't be angry at anyone but himself. He's been given an opportunity. You can't say what the reason is for the medical or the physical, should I say. So take it with a grain of salt. But the fact is, he's going back to Denver and it doesn't seem likely that he'll get much game time. And it's a shame because there was a big opportunity there in Detroit.
And I honestly think just the fact that he didn't pass this physical, it's going to hurt him because I think a lot of teams are thinking if he can't pass his physical, then we don't really want to look to acquire him,
Well, I think at NBA level, you've always got to be ready physically. You've always got to be in.
Well, look at these guys on 10-day contracts.
Yes.
Coming in and having to just be ready at the drop of a hat. And he's a guy who's on a roster.
Exactly right. And if he thinks he's going to get a starting spot or if he's going to get a spot in general, just due to his height alone, he's kidding himself. So
I hate it because he's showing potential. Like we're down in the bubble in the lead-up games. He was looking fantastic. Showed an ability from outside. Showed for a big guy, a pretty tight handle, but it just hasn't developed since. So, time will tell how Bol's future unfolds. Also, another little bit of trade news, a bigger bit of trade news, should I say, was the Knicks. So let me get this right. The Knicks received Cam Reddish, Solomon Hill, and a 2025 second-round pick. And the Hawks received Kevin Knox and a 2022 first-round pick. So the big takeaway is one trade, and the New York Knicks could have Duke's big three back. RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish, if they got Zion Williamson, the boys are back together. The band is back.
Certainly isn't off the cards based off the way New Orleans have performed this year. We'll get to them a bit later in the old gradings.
Absolutely.
But, they certainly haven't performed well.
So who do you think's the winner out of this one? I think both teams win.
Yeah.
Just because for the Hawks, they've got so many players at the minute that, getting that first round pick, certainly advantageous. They get a bit of money off the books. Again, for the Knicks, I think that, Reddish, he's shown a lot of potential on both ends of the floor.
He does.
That if given the right situation, maybe the lights are a little brighter in New York, and he can flourish under that, he could really develop into something.
Yeah. Well, I think the first part of Cam Reddish's career has sort of been partly hampered by injuries.
Yes.
So we certainly haven't gotten to see the best of Cam Reddish yet. But I, for one, I think the Knicks have won this because I reckon Cam Reddish's best basketball is likely to come in the next few years.
Yeah.
And the Knicks will reap the rewards of that. So, but as you said, it's a business and you've got to get sort of these contracts off the books occasionally, and they get a draft pick.
The Hawks have got to get I think in the next month, the trade deadline's in a couple of weeks. I think we'll see quite a few trades, but I think the Hawks, given how they're flailing quite dramatically in the East after the successes of going to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, they've got a lot of money on the books that can be moved. You look at Gallinari, I think he's on close to 15 million or so, a player who's getting older, a bit longer in the tooth, a contract who could go. There's a lot of Herter. They've got a lot of kind of people who feel the same role.
Yeah.
And they just need to kind of slim down the roster a little bit, have a really good top tier 6 or 7 players, a couple of young players, good players coming through on the up. But they've got just so many mouths to feed at the minute. Lou Williams, there's just too much going on there. So
surely they're not getting rid of Red Velvet though.
Wow.
I thought it was either going to be Red Velvet or Cam Reddish, and it ended up being Cam Reddish because they were either going to stick with those two wings in Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter, or they were going to stick with Red Hot Fire and DeAndre Hunter, which they've done. My only question with Cam Reddish going to the Knicks, is he going to be competing quite a bit for game time? You look at the other kind of wing they have on that team. You've got like Emmanuel Quickly, Quentin Grimes, I think his name is. You've got like Obi Toppin. Because I think that Cam Reddish will be coming off the bench because we know Tibbs and we know that you need to earn your spot on the roster. So I think he's going to have to put in a fair bit of work there.
I do agree in saying that he's gone to a big market team, arguably the biggest market team in the league. So he's going to get exposure.
Yeah.
I think he'll get significant game time, to be honest, regardless of if he comes off the bench or if he, starts.
Yeah.
And he's got so much talent and potential.
A lot of upside there. And that's, as you were saying, who won the trade, getting that first round pick's awesome. Who knows what it could turn into? It could be a franchise star. It could be an absolute, bottom dweller. Who knows what it could be? But Cam Reddish is more of a proven commodity at this point.
I think it was equal in both teams because Cam Reddish's time at the Hawks was pretty much done.
Plagued by injury. You need to change your scenery.
Exactly. And the Hawks are kind of in that rebuilding stage, kind of contending for...
I know today's predominantly focused on the West.
Yeah.
They're in a real weird position because they feel poised as to what we saw last year. Who knows how it broke because of injury, because of different things, but they look poised as a legitimate contender, and they're outside the play-in at the minute. I think I saw with today's loss, they're 3.5 games back of the Knicks for that 12th spot. That's not even the play-in. That's the not the playoff, sorry, the play-in. For the 10th spot, should I say? But they're in a bit of a crisis mode at the minute. They've got a big uphill climb to do in the second half of the season. That's enough Knicks and Hawks talk. So let's get into our Western Conference grading here, lads. Now, we'll do it in the same kind of system as we did last week. We'll go alphabetical order. Now, I will just put the little premise on once again that all stats, all kind of standings, records, things of the kind were done last night. So they don't take into account any games from today.
Yeah.
So we'll speak prior to that. We'll get into it because there's a lot to get through. 15 teams in the West. let's start with Dallas. Lee, what have you got for Dallas?
You know what? I haven't watched a heap of Dallas Mavericks games, and I don't know why. But from what I have seen is Luka's been out a little bit, and that just goes with his ankle and foot injury. But what I have liked to see is Jalen Brunson. He's quite flourished in his absence, which I'd like to see. From what I've seen, they're just traveling along, and they're not doing too bad. What are they sitting?
They're currently sitting 5th at 22-19.
Yeah.
I like what. So, what was your grading for them?
So, my grading for them was C+.
Right.
So, they're just going above average. They're traveling along, and I like it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've given them a B-. I think kind of similar. They're kind of just treading water, but they're doing so in a manner that's got them up to 5th. So, they're certainly showing competency above what we probably expected without Luka, and for parts KP.
Yeah.
For KP, he has shown flashes so far. Hard to read into it too much because you just know it seems inevitable that an injury's coming, or you can't get your hopes too high with him, it would seem.
Yeah.
If he can, I don't know. I think they could use a big man. I think they could use a big man. Play KP as a power forward, Luka in as well. Likewise, I think. So the big concern is KP's health and Luka's health a little bit, more so KP, but Brunson as well has been the bright spark for me.
So who's their backup big man at the moment?
Is it Maxi Kleber?
Oh, Maxi's out.
Right. Dwight Powell.
But Cleaves isn't a big man. He's like a shooter. That's what he's known for.
Big man shooter. He's a big enough.
But regardless, they need
a big presence in there. But Brunson for me has been a real bright spark. If he hadn't have played, as many games starting as he had, he probably would be 6th man of the year. But he started more than half with Luka out. But real unsung hero there for them. Ro, what have you given the Dallas Mavericks?
I've been very kind to the Dallas Mavericks, actually. Whoa. I've given them a B+.
Yeah.
The simple fact, as you guys were mentioning, Luka Doncic, who is the heart and soul and the backbone and everything for this Dallas Mavericks franchise, he's had extended periods out throughout
a lot of time.
And to be sitting at 5th in the West, which is a really
commendable effort.
It's an incredible effort when you think about it, because I look at the rest of this Dallas Mavericks team. I look at Luka Doncic, who is obviously heads and shoulders above the next best player on that team. But then all the other players, apart from Jalen Brunson, who's been quite good throughout their course of the year, sort of hit and miss most of the time. I think of Tim Hardaway Jr.,
who's been relegated to the bench now,
which is saying something. And I think of Porzingis, who's out 1 week in the next. So I think to be sitting at 5th at the moment in the West, I think that's
a job well done. Absolutely. Let's go to the Denver Nuggets, Ro, while you're on a red hot charge there.
Yeah, look, I've given the Denver Nuggets a B, a flat B. They had a very, very slow start to the season. And I don't think many people were anticipating that, even with the injuries to Michael Porter Jr. and obviously Jamal Murray's still out. But the fact of the matter is they've climbed right back into contention in that Western Conference top 8. And it's been off the back of another MVP caliber season from Nikola Jokic. He's been incredible.
He's been he is one of the top couple in the MVP race for sure.
I mean, I think ESPN or NBA posted today, I think it's Giannis, Jokic, and probably Curry.
I cannot speak. I cannot speak highly enough of Nikola Jokic in terms of the surrounding cast he has around him and the position that the Denver Nuggets are in,
finding themselves 6th at the moment at 21-19.
I think that's a really good effort, particularly as I said to begin with, that they started the season off very slowly, and they've clawed their way back. So flat B, I think.
Flat B from me as well. It's such a shame because this really felt like the year where MPJ could really explode. And a lot were touting that. So it is a shame in that regard with the ceiling on him so high from what he's shown and where the Nuggets could go. For them, it's really been a weird year because it's kind of been Jokic or bust for them. I think Aaron Gordon's finding his feet a little more in Denver. It's seen a little bit of an increase in consistency, which was key, where last season as he integrated himself into the team was very hit and miss. So that's a positive. I think if they can just stay where they are, just keep treading water, keep ticking things over, stay in that top 6, find themselves in a playoff position once Porter Jr. comes back, I would hate to come up against them. I really, really would. So I've given them a flat B as well, Lee.
And I've given them just a tick below that, a B minus. Yeah. You pretty much mentioned everything that I had in my notes. Jokic has been having an MVP caliber season. I have liked what I've seen from Will Barton stepping up.
Yes.
He's kind of gone into that second leading scorer for the Nuggets. He's scoring about 15 points per game, I think. And then Asg is third with 14 points per game, which I like because he wasn't put on that team to be a scorer, but he can when need be. So I like that. I also like, and while he doesn't put a heap of numbers on the stat board, Campazzo is a fun guy to watch.
Facundo.
Because his passes just go, I think, under the radar to his playmaking ability. But like you said, it's gonna be scary when Jamal Murray comes back, and hopefully they can make quite a decent run in the playoffs.
Absolutely. Let's go to the Golden State Warriors. I will take us away here. Currently sitting second at 30-11. I've given them a B plus. Now, they started the season on an absolute tear, running absolute riot over the league. I guess really the pace setters. They've cooled down a little as of late. They're sitting 5-5 in their last 10 games, and that's kind of coincided with Steph Curry. He's like the Warriors started on a tear, man on a mission. And we were, after a couple of weeks, were saying to give him the MVP now. It looked like he'd sewn it up very, very early. His shooting's, like his actual efficiency's decreased a little bit. His output's decreased a little bit. That being said, they're still winning enough games. They're still in there, right, hot on the heels of the Suns there, who we'll mention a little bit later on. But what has been super positive is Andrew Wiggins.
Yes.
Probably the best season of his career.
Yeah.
All-star is looking well and truly.
He's third in
actually, he's starting, isn't he? As of the moment, he's starting.
He's not because of it's 50%
fan
votes.
In terms of the fan vote.
He's third in the front court of Western Conference.
So fantastic for him. And again, that word consistency has been huge for him. And likewise, seen greater output from Jordan Poole, who started on a blaze as well. We've got Clay back now, so there's a lot to look forward to going forward. But the question will be just health, if Clay can stay on the court, things of the kind. But looking very formidable at this point in time.
I gave them an A. Who would have thought that straight out of the gates they would have been kind of a powerhouse, which they were straight out of the gates. I thought once Clay came back, once he integrated himself back in, that they would have been fit and firing. But straight out of the gates, they were
up and about.
They pretty much have a player from the Golden State Warriors in every category of award races this year. You've got Curry in the MVP race. You've got Draymond Green pretty much leading that defensive player in the year race. And then you've got Jordan Poole, who's, he's probably not leading, but he's definitely in the conversations of most improved.
Could Wiggins be in there as well?
He could be.
Could you make a shout for him?
No, I'd probably put Jordan Poole in front of him. But I've also, as of late, and when I say as of late, I mean of the last 2 or 3 games, been really impressed with Jonathan Kuminga and what he's been able to do in terms of putting points on the board. So no, I'm looking forward to what they have to come.
Excellent. So what was your grading? Sorry, I gave them a B plus. You had them
I actually gave them an A.
An A, Ro?
I've given them a flat A as well. Very impressed with what they've done so far this year. We knew they'd be without Clay for an extended period. He's only just come back and they're still
looking good.
Looking really good. Still sitting at second in the West. I don't see many negatives, if any negatives at all this year for the Golden State Warriors. They've been absolutely incredible. There
you go. Very good. Do you just quickly, do you think over the next month, over the next couple of weeks before the trade period ends, with the assets they've got in the position they're in now, do you think they're a candidate to sell?
I don't think so. Like, why would they? They're pretty much at the top of the West, and all their pieces are contributing. And this is without James Wiseman back.
But do you think if you got rid of 1 or 2 of these assets, a Wiseman and a Kuminga in a package with whatever, that you could get like a star who's on the fringes, a star that's on the edge? Could you add a?
You probably could, but why would you when everything's going to plan?
Are they the favourite though? Do you think? Do you think they can knock off Brooklyn in a 7-game series? Because
I think so.
Where they're at now, that's their end goal championship. So
if they were to get something, it'd be to like Kevon Looney's good, but you need something else in that big man role. So that'd be my only aspect of it.
I mean, I think the only thing that you do is give up a few of these guys for a bit more depth.
Yep.
I don't know if you'd necessarily go for another star player. I don't think they necessarily need that. I think they've already got their core in place. I think just another few pieces off the bench wouldn't.
So let me pose this one quickly then. Would you try and trade for a Miles Turner to shore up your big man stocks? And he's still an outside threat in his own right. Would you look to package something together to have him?
I would.
Yeah,
I would. For sure. Yep. Defensive stalwart, and he wouldn't need to do anything really on the offensive end. They've got enough offensive firepower as it is. I'm
with you, and I think they should look to it because I don't know at the minute. And this last week has shown. I know they've tried to reintegrate Clay back into the fold, but they've just looked a little touch off the mark. I know they. We're not including today. They bounced back with a big win over the Bulls, who were somewhat depleted. Zach Levine went out early in that one. But I think they should as well. I think they've got the pieces to be made to really – you've got to maximise this period of Clay and Steph while they're in their prime. And
agree.
I think a move like Turner or something of the kind would certainly get them to their full potential.
For sure.
Take it away, Lee, with Houston.
I gave the Houston Rockets a D. Prior to the season, when we were given kind of our expectations, I said – they're not going to win games, but they're going to be fun to watch.
Yep.
And to be honest, they're not winning games. So I was right in that aspect, but they're not very fun to watch either. I thought there was going to be some brotherhood, some dynamic duo between Jalen Green and KPJ, which I don't doubt they'll build that and build on that in the future. But right now, that's not happening. KPJ is exactly where I thought he'd be. He's still just trying to figure out how to navigate this team as the leading point guard, but
still trying to figure out how to actually work with teammates. Last year we saw there was issues with teammates. This year, in the last week with Christian Wood there, there's been issues as well. So what's the common denominator in that situation? KPJ.
Christian Wood just looks like he's got his head down pretty much all game. Jalen Green's trying to find his shot, but it's been pretty difficult for him.
Yep.
People might blame the head coach, Stephen Silas, but I wouldn't.
It's coming into a franchise that's a bottom feeder. You can't. I mean, it's a tough position to come into.
He came into a franchise that he expected James Harden to be there, and he got left with this atrocity of a team. So it's not so much of a head coaching job. It's not so much problem. It's not so much of a player problem. It's more an organizational problem, in my opinion.
So a D from Lee, Roy. What have you gone with?
I've given them a D plus. It may have been a case of giving them a flat C for the simple fact that they are probably performing at the level that we thought they would. But I've given them a bit of a downgrade for what Lee was mentioning. I just feel like the team chemistry is in all sorts at the moment. I feel like if I was a Houston Rockets fan, even though we've got young talent, I don't think I'd be feeling overly optimistic about the future because I don't think it's as solidified and as stable as a lot of other young franchises, young up and coming franchises in the league. And to Lee's point about Stephen Silas, it's just it always is an easy scapegoat, the coach, to say, oh, this team isn't performing well because of the coach. I think the players need to take all of the responsibility in this case because I think there's a lot of immaturity in that franchise. And I think if they want to achieve success in the future, they've got to screw their heads on correctly because at the moment they're playing with a lot of ego. And it's really disappointing to see, given the fact that a young team with this much talent, and don't get me wrong, they've got so much potential.
There's a lot there to like.
But at the end of the day, you've also got to have a bit up here, which they don't at the moment. So
between the ears, you reckon?
I think so.
I've gone with a D. Sitting 15th, bottom of the Western Conference, sitting at 12-31. For all money, it didn't look like they were going to reach 10 wins. And I would have, the bookies odds, I reckon they were pretty short price not to make that at one stage there. They were looking abysmal. They went through that little phase where they were the hottest team in the West. They won, 8 in a row? And it was like,
crazy.
What is this? They had a bit of momentum on their side. And they looked good for a hot minute there, but that's quickly come back to earth in the recent last week or two, especially signified by that disharmony with KPJ and Wood. It kind of just really shows where they're at as a team, the culture they've got, the chemistry. It really does play such a key part. The big question I have, Green has showed flashes. He's a rookie. He'll kind of iron out some of the kinks in his game. But the big question I have is why isn't John Wall playing?
You said this a few weeks ago, didn't you?
He's being paid 40 plus million a season. He's sitting on the bench. Why would you, for a team that's not going anywhere, wouldn't it be so handy, even in a sixth man role or whatever the kind, to provide a bit of leadership, a bit of experience, a bit of wisdom to these young players, especially Jalen Green, and just help nurture that young talent they've got, because he's just been absolutely wasted. You may as well just go and throw it down the drain, $40 million at this point. Would you not want to see something for your money?
I'll put my hand up here. A few months ago, you raised this in terms of John Wall getting back into the rotation, and I turned it down because I thought, well, they're looking towards their future. I don't necessarily think John Wall is part of their future. I don't think he should play. At the moment, they're in all sorts in terms of from a team chemistry perspective. I think you're 100% on the money. And
he's certainly not part of their future, is he? But the benefit he can bring to these young players is just, and would you
Now you look at Udonis Haslem. He's obviously not part of their future, but he nurtures those big men and even everyone on the team. So I don't see why John Wall can't do the same job.
And if you're paying him 40 plus million, you want to see, whether it's good or bad, you just want to see something for your money, because it's just dead money at the moment, and it is super, super frustrating. I still think he can perform a role. We saw last season, what was he, about 20 points a game? Yeah. The explosiveness wasn't quite at the point where he was the most explosive athlete within the league, but, he can still, I think he's still got a bit to offer the league in some teams, some franchise, but they need to get something out of him. So that's enough of my Houston Rockets talk. Roy, the LA Clippers.
I've given them a C minus. Obviously,
C minus. That's a bit low.
I wouldn't have thought so. I knew at the start of the season they were going to be without Kawhi Leonard for a lot of the season. And obviously over the last few weeks they've been without Paul George. So that's their two superstars gone. That impacts them massively. However, if I'm looking at this from the perspective of where did I expect them to be at this point of the season?
Yeah, that's fair.
I would have thought that they'd be sort of midway into the top 8. I would have thought they'd maybe be around the 5 range.
Sitting at 8th at the moment at 21 and 22.
So is that a pass mark for me? No, it's not. I think they're just below the mark. I'm taking into account, obviously, the fact that they've had injuries to the two key players, but at the end of the day, expectation versus reality, they're not performing as well as I thought they would, even with the injuries.
There you go. I've given them a B minus.
Yep.
I think they've had their backs against the wall the whole season, starting with Kawhi being out for it. PG's missed a heap of time, but when he was playing in that first couple of weeks, again, was in that kind of MVP conversation early on. They're on any given night, they don't have an out-and-out scorer. Terrence Mann hasn't quite, reached the level that he did last season in the playoffs. He really looked like a real gunner and looked like probably a most improved player for this year. Their kind of only out-and-out scorer is Reggie Jackson, and you're not expecting him to put up 25, 30 points a night.
No, I wouldn't have thought so.
I think for them going forward, it's just going to be a real grit and grind season. If they can kind of hang on and hold true in that 8 position, not drop too far, once Kawhi hopefully comes back this season, PG, they are a really scary proposition. They've just got to keep things afloat at the minute. Like a lot of teams in the West, a lot of West teams are kind of in that kind of just treading water phase. But I think they've done very admirably given what they've got and what they're missing at the moment. Yep. So a B minus for me.
And I gave him a B minus as well. You said that Paul George was playing at MVP caliber level, which he was, but it really did rub off on all the other players around him. Like Reg Jacks was looking like that great second option behind Paul George.
He's not a first option, is he?
Not.
Which is, I guess, what he is at the moment.
He has to be now. We saw bright spots from like Eric Bledsoe, Terrence Mann.
Who I saw is down to the bench now, Eric Bledsoe.
Yeah.
He's been pretty disappointing in my eyes.
It just all did go downhill when Paul George went out. They dipped down to 8 now, I think. But and Paul George might be out for the season. And in saying that, that might mean that there's no point bringing Kawhi Leonard back if they're down the bottom of the ranks and Paul George is out. Like it wouldn't make sense to me at least. So I don't really know what their future holds in terms of this season, but B minus.
Get Stevie Ballmer to keep flooding the cash in. She'll be right. New stadium, they'll be set.
Do we reckon both Kawhi and PG are going to be long-term players for the Los Angeles Clippers? Or do you think, given the fact that their first few seasons with the franchise have been I would say fairly underwhelming
and hampered by injuries. So there is.
Yeah.
That's a good question. That is a really good question. I'm going to say, just as a yes or no, I'm going to say no.
I'm going to say they'll find once they find a year where they're both healthy and can play the full year, I think they'll assess from there.
That'll certainly make a difference, won't it? A team that should be up and about at the moment, but is not. The Los Angeles Lakers, their counterparts in LA there. I've given them a D. They currently sit at 7th at 21-21, so 500 there for the Lakers. I tell you what, if they were without LeBron, they would be in a world of pain. The last few games he's been playing center, has been absolutely balling, putting up MVP-like numbers and playing like an MVP, really putting the team on his back, which is what he's got to do. AD going down is a big blow, and to be honest, he was looking poor before he went down, so... You take that for what it is, probably doing better without him, in fairness, the way he was going. The Russell Westbrook experience. You never know what you're going to get, do you? And the last month or so has been pretty ordinary for him. The shooting is horrendous at the moment, and he just looks like a player who's
not there,
out of confidence. He's claiming that he's not playing the point guard role. Like from interviews, he said he's like, I'm not the point guard of the team, but you obviously are.
He's certainly not the shooting guard.
It gives me headaches watching this team play. It really, really does. And the only bright sparks have been LeBron and probably Malik Monk, who, what a find he's been. He's been awesome, absolute flamethrower. Him and LeBron in the 1-2 game are fantastic together. But the rest of the team, I really don't have too many positive things to say. And probably a D was almost overshooting it. It's just purely for the fact they had, a good last week or two, won a couple of games, got up to 7th. But they're a team in disarray, and I think for them to go far, they need AD back.
Yep.
Yeah. And for the finals, they need to find themselves, I think, at season's end in the top 6. If they're in the play-in, I worry about where they're going.
Yeah. I've given them a D as well. They're pretty much the laughing stock of the league right now, I'd say. Wouldn't you agree with me? But obviously, Russ is a problem. He just in saying that though, his low lights are very highlighted by the media. Like you see his bad shots and not his good shots.
Not many of them at the moment.
There's not many of them, but it's just gone to show this season. LeBron, as much as he tries, he's not enough to try bring up this team.
He has got them up a bit. He has got them up a bit. They would be in a world of hurt without him.
And they're another team that I really don't know where they're going to end up at the end of the regular season. Whether they even end up in the playoffs is a question to me. But once AD comes back, I think that's when they really need to knuckle down and think, where are we going from here?
So you gave them a D as well.
Yeah.
Ro, what did you have for the Lakers?
Yeah, look, it's 3 in a row. I've given them a D as well.
Fair.
I think it's just another case of expectation versus reality. Regardless of if AD has been out for this period of time, we know he's a superstar of the league and he's a key contributor for this team. But I certainly think that even without him, they should have enough key players to have performed more admirably than they have so far.
Yep.
They've lost games that we've watched throughout the year, Nick, that they really should have won against lower ranked teams.
So many games. Exactly against the Kings the other day.
Yeah, against the Kings. And they're the games that could be the difference between getting a 5, 6, 7 spot and a 8, and then in the play-in tournament.
And that's the difference between the good teams and the great teams, isn't it? The fact that on any given night they can come out and just put the foot down and get the win because they know they're the better team.
Oh, absolutely. Where would they be without this guy up here? I honestly do not know. But he's been single-handedly keeping them in contention. And I say in contention, but goodness me, they're just hanging on by a thread at the moment.
Amen. Lee, what have you got for the Memphis Grizzlies?
I got to say, Memphis Grizzlies this year is one of the most exciting teams to watch. I love to watch Memphis Grizzlies games. Who would have thought that they'd be sitting third?
Sitting
in the
third
West?
at the moment, 30-14.
whether you viewers and whether you guys like it or not, they've forced themselves into the conversation of the elite teams of this season.
Absolutely.
I think aren't they on a massive win streak?
It was 11 as of today, taking out today's loss against 11. The Mavericks, but we won't count that. So we'll say 11 for the purpose of conversation.
And it's all on the back of our main man, Ja Morant. He this year looks like he's mentally and physically there. And then that rubs off on the whole team. That they're fueled by his explosiveness.
Is it all on the back of him, though?
Not all
because when he was out, they were bowling anyway.
Not all on the back, but I think that, like I said, they're fueled by his play. Like Desmond Bane looks like he's found his role in this team. He's been playing great. Dylan Brooks, I know he's out right now, but he's found some more consistency. Like you said, they're able to hold their ground with Jar out, but with them in, they're a scary team.
I agree 100%.
What rating did you give them?
I think I gave them an A.
No.
Yeah, likewise, I gave them an A as well, and they're a team that I have kind of almost pushed against, that I don't think they're there, that they're kind of overhyped, that they're not as good as what they've been showing. But I think they've just about made me a believer. They've convinced me. A lot of it comes back to Jar in that MVP talk as well, in the top 10 at the moment. But, I'm really high as well on Desmond Bane. Second-year player. He has stepped up to that probably number 2 role. Underrated. His output is just phenomenal this season, and they look really well gelled together. They're getting contributions out of everyone from top to bottom. You look at Tillman, John Conchar, just top to bottom. They've got so many, what the word is, competent players who you can just fill a role. You've got some star players in Jar, Darren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane, but they've just got enough. The one thing I would say is I think they can get rid of Stevie Adams. I think Darren Jackson Jr. can be their centre, and he will be their centre going forward. I think Adams can go. I think he is not necessary at the moment.
Back to New Zealand.
Back to the NBL, you reckon? For the Breakers here in the NBL, how would that be? But I think that is the piece they can move going forward. Yep. But I'm very, very high on them, thus giving an A rating.
I have given them an
Don't
A.
do it.
Plus,
the big A plus.
So good this year. They've been probably, I was saying to Nick before the podcast, they've probably been one of the most exciting teams to watch this year. Ja Morant has been one of the most, if not the most exciting player. They have exceeded even the highest expectations that I had for them prior to the beginning of this season.
Yep.
My highest expectations were probably going to be that they'd be around the midway mark, maybe 5 or 6 in the West, and that was pushing it.
That was generous.
Yeah. But they have been above and beyond that. And you were mentioning before, Nick, and I think it's a good word, they've got so many competent players, but they've also got so many players who play without an ego.
Yes.
They play to fill their role. They play to get wins and success. And I think in terms of, you look at the good teams over the years, I reckon a lot of them would have those same type of players who probably on another team could take more of a key, not a star role, but a
bigger role. Yeah.
But these guys don't care. They're sitting on not on the coattails of Jar, but they're sitting behind Jar. Jar's leading them from the front. And
as a 22-year-old, by the way.
22-year-old. Now, just quickly, I don't want to go into this too much, but we're watching the Memphis Grizzlies Dallas Mavericks pregame before the show. There was a question.
Yeah, here we go.
At this point of their career, and I was planning on asking both of you, at this point of their career, would you be taking Luka Doncic or Ja Morant if you were starting a franchise? Who would be the guy you'd go to?
You got a coin on you to flip. I'm gonna say Luka.
Yep.
Without going into it, I'll say Luka.
And I'd probably if you were to say Ja, and I know Ja's been great as of late, I think it would be too much recency bias. So I'm going to say Luka as well.
Look, I love Ja like nothing else, but I have to stick with my main man. So, but regardless, Memphis Grizzlies.
But the fact that it's a question
is the big talking point, isn't it?
Absolutely.
One aspect of Ja's game that is probably my favorite is his hang time. And that's how he makes most of his buckets. He hangs so he can, I don't know if you saw that double hand block the other day.
Against the Lakers. Phenomenal. Lads, we're going to have to rattle through. We've still got 8 teams to go. We are
Okay,
we're on a long-winded episode today. Let's go with the Minnesota Timberwolves row.
I've given them a C, probably where I thought they would be.
Ninth at the moment, 20 and 22.
Yeah, sitting just outside the top 8. Nothing to write home about, but they've been solid, and I think they've got stuff to look forward to and players to look forward to going forward. So C, I think they've just passed.
Weird team. I've given them a C+. Their trend, it's like an up and down graph. So they win 4, they lose 4, they win 3, they lose 5.
Yep.
And they just go on these little runs for positive and negative, and you can't get a read on them. Just when you start to, put a little bit of faith on them, they go on these 5-game losing streaks. But their starting 3 with D'Lo, Cat, and Ant is super exciting, causes a lot of teams headaches, and it's fantastic. They've looked great, those 3. My concern is their second unit. Don't know if Beasley's the 6th man you want. I don't think he's quite there this year. You got Naz Reid coming off the bench, players like that. I just think their second unit is a concern at the moment.
Right.
What would they give to have like a Ricky Rubio back or someone of the kind?
Yeah.
So, I think there's potential there. I think this is the best Minnesota's looked in quite a while.
Yeah.
If they can make the play-in, fantastic. If they can somehow claw a playoff spot, all power to them. It's good that they're relevant again. They just need to get a little more consistency.
Yeah.
So C+.
I've given them a B-.
Wow, Lee's high.
Yeah, I am high
on the Timberwolves.
Just behind the my Charlotte Hornets and Memphis Grizzlies. They're probably my 3rd favorite team to watch.
Wow.
That trio, whether they stay together in the future or not, doesn't matter, because right now they're the 3 faces of that franchise, which I love. You said they didn't have much off the bench, which I agree, but you didn't mention Pat Bev, because he's been a bright spark for them, in my opinion. But no, B-.
So you think they've got 3 faces of the franchise? You think D'Lo is?
Yeah.
I think it's Ant or Cat.
No, I think 3 faces.
You think D'Lo as well?
I think they're a 3-headed dragon.
Okay, if you're the Timberwolves going forward and you say, I need one player to lead this franchise, who would you be taking?
Cat.
Ant. Just because Cat had his time before and that didn't reap any benefits whatsoever with him and Wiggins.
Yep.
I think Cat's fantastic in his own right, but I think Edwards is the piece moving forward.
And I think Ant's the future, isn't he?
Exactly.
This point? He's the guy to lead them out of the dark.
So since Cat's been there, how many times have they made the playoffs? Is it once?
Was it that in 2017?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yep. Yeah. That sounds right. Back check us on that one, but that sounds right. So I think it's Edwards. Ro, would you say Edwards?
Yes. Yep.
Fantastic. There's Minnesota, done and dusted. Lee, take us away with the Pelicans.
This year, it's been proven to me that the Pelicans need Zion Williamson to progress whatsoever, because they haven't this year. We have seen some highlights in Jonas Valanciunas. He's very consistent on the offensive end. He's been pretty much doing all of their work.
Yep.
I like Herb Jones as a defender. Josh Hart's also been playing well, but their highlights don't make up for their lowlights this year.
What grade have you racked them with?
That's why I've given them a D.
A D?
Yeah, not happy with them.
There you go. They sit 12th at the moment, 16 and 26. An absolutely disgraceful start to the season. They were sitting bottom of the conference. Yep. I've given them a D+, and the big point of concern at the minute is their future, and that's Zion. But the big concern is his health. He has missed more time than he's played just about, and we know what a talent he is. But as these injuries keep racking up, the less confidence I have in him and the Pelicans going forward. Herb Jones, as you mentioned, Lee, he's been found money. Fantastic there. As of late, Ingram's been better. His output's increased. Valanciunas as well, very handy. A big upgrade on Steven Adams.
Yep.
As much as I hate to say it, Devontae Graham has been very inconsistent. Very inconsistent. You just can't get a read on that guy. But, I think they could really, depending on when Zion comes back, I haven't heard the latest reports as of yet, with the way Ingram's playing, with Jonas Valanciunas, the way he's playing, and I will mention them shortly, another team who I think might fall out. I think they could be a bit of a candidate for that 10th spot in the West. So they sit at 12th at the minute, but I think they could possibly be a playing team. But it all hinges on Zion Williams. So D+ for me. Ro, what have you got?
Giving them a D. What this year's just proved to me is, despite the acquisition of Jonas Valanciunas, who has been quite impressive, he's been a double-double threat every single night.
Mm-hmm.
This team overall is very lackluster, and they lack excitement, they lack heart, they lack backbone. They just lack all the
lack ticker.
They do. They honestly do. They lack all the things that make a successful team.
And you know what they say about ticker, Ro?
Yes.
Can't be bought, can't be taught.
You'd say that on a weekly basis to Lee and I, and I'd have to agree.
Absolutely.
It's so true, but they've been ultra disappointing. Regardless of if they've had Zion Williamson or not, I need to see a bit more heart from them because they've just been lackluster so far this season.
Imagine being a Pelicans fan. That would suck.
You know a few, don't you?
I do know a few. Yeah. I do know a few. And it's such a shame for them with all the hype and excitement around Zion coming and, you know, everything else that's gone with it, getting Ingram. You got Lonzo at one point. You had Josh Hart. Everyone else, whatever was going on, it really looked like they were poised, primed and ready to go for a big kind of next couple of years. But it's fallen flat as of late. So a team that is poised for the next decade, the Oklahoma. Shall we try that again?
Yeah.
Oklahoma City Thunder. They currently sit 14th at 13-28. I've given them a C. I've given them a pass mark as it stands. And a large part of that is, you know, you can't be anything but delighted with Josh Giddey. And like I could do a whole episode on Gidd, how happy I am, and just kind of sing his praises, give him every superlative under the sun. But he has been phenomenal. Was it Western Conference Rookie of the Month for November and December? Unbelievable there. So for a guy who was picked 6th, a lot of doubters coming in, he has really shown out. What surprised me has been his offensive output in the scoring column. It's been better, a lot better as of late as well. You know, and he's just his vision, his awareness, and his just feel for the game. And it is Luka Doncic reminiscent without the big step back three.
Sure.
So very happy with his progression. Gilgeous-Alexander as well has been excellent, and especially as of late as well. Him and Giddey really carrying this team. I guess my kind of concern is, bar those two, who are you getting scoring out of every other night? Is it Lou Dort? And very hit and miss. Is it Maladon? Is it, I forgot his first name, something Wiggins, Wiggins. Is it Anthony?
Something.
There's another Wiggins who's not Andrew, but, you know, there's just a lot of players that, you know, you can't think of on this team because...
Just passengers.
There you go. Well put. They are passengers. Bar Giddey, Shea, and Dort at times. There's a lot of just passengers. There you go, passengers. So I think, as I said, poised and primed for the next decade. Happy with where they're at the moment, and I think they'd be delighted with Giddey, but not much else happening in Oklahoma.
I've given them a C as well. Likewise, I'm so pleased that the Oklahoma City have let Josh Giddey play to his strengths. Do you recall seeing prior to this season the NBA Talent Scouts guide on Josh Giddey was pretty much saying that he could not play basketball. Like, all his weaknesses were key aspects of the game.
Get that one up,
The fact of the matter is that he's exceeded expectations, even from us so far this year. I would have thought he's been so impressive. And
just quickly, let me ask you that as you said that, because, you know, without my I guess my tin hat on and speak, like I would have said, you know, by far rookie of the year, no worries. But I guess in just pure, just honesty, he has surpassed where we thought he would be, hasn't he?
Absolutely.
Just in every regard, what he's done on a nightly basis, he has surpassed where we thought he would be.
Oh, couldn't agree more. So I'm really pleased with what they've done with him so far this year. And as you said, like I think they are at the moment where we expected them to be. So they deserve the pass mark. They probably even deserve a plus. They
nearly had a plus from me. Nearly.
Yeah, due to the fact that they've played their players so well, like their young key players so well and in position and according to their strengths.
There you go, Lee. What have you got for the Thunder?
I've actually gone past the plus mark and given them a B- this year.
Right, okay.
B-?
I pretty much do mimic everything you say. Like, Shea Gilgeous continues to improve as a leader and a player in general. Giddey's dropping some sweet dimes. And Lou Dort, you said he was a bit hit and miss, which he is, but he does continue to improve offensively, which I like. What I gave him a B- for was...
I want to hear this.
We knew they were going to tank, which they are, but they're still fun to watch. Like, I don't mind tuning into
compared to Houston, as you said, who aren't fun to watch.
Yeah, they've got good chemistry, and I don't actually mind tuning into an OKC Thunder game.
And probably just gave them a downgrade on the fact they lost by 70+ points in a game this season, but that's neither here nor there.
I see what Lee's saying about, in comparison to the Houston Rockets. I think if I'm an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, I've got plenty to look forward to the future.
Absolutely. The future is bright there in OKC. We've got 5 teams to go, lads. What have you got for the Phoenix Suns, Lee?
I've given the Phoenix Suns this year a straight A. They've been pretty much nothing short of amazing.
First seed at the moment, aren't they? Sitting at 31-9.
Yeah, and that it doesn't fall on the back of Chris Paul, but he's been pretty much the major factor in that. The way he's just up and led that team is quite inspiring in my eyes, and he's picked up his defense a fair bit this year. People might say that D-Book's scoring efficiency has dropped, which has had a little bit, but that's fine because
had a good week.
Because his playmaking is also taken an upwards trajectory, which I like. So an A for me.
I've given them a straight A as well. And it just feels as if they're almost going through the motions, which is certainly a good thing. They're not having to really exert themselves too heavily. Like they know they're a playoff team. They know they're a championship contender. Sure. And they're not having to really get too far out of first gear, yet they're top of the West, which is a testament to them. As long as they can keep everyone healthy, keep things afloat, I think Chris Paul, awesome. Devin Booker, awesome as of late. Let me pose this question without you getting into your spiel, big fella.
Sure.
Do you think Devin Booker could be a future MVP?
Well, let's put it this way. I reckon he might when Chris Paul hangs up the boot, so to speak. I think a lot of sort of praise is gone between those two equally.
Absolutely.
This is the thing though. Will they be as dangerous once Chris Paul hangs up the boots? And will they be like at the moment they're a 1 seed. Yeah. Are they likely to be a 1 seed going forward without the leadership and high IQ and overall skill set that Chris Paul provides to that team?
Depends what the piece is that comes in, but how can you replace one of the best point guards of all time? Yes. It's a tough ask. So yeah, I don't know, but they're a fun team, and I think every team should be very, very wary of them coming into the playoffs.
Gotcha.
They're not making a lot of noise. They're not in the headlines, going about their business. They lead the league in their record at the moment. So an A for me, very, very impressed with what they're doing and continuing on from last year. So there you go. Ro.
Giving them an A, flat A. It's actually quite frightening to think that they're sitting at the 1 seed at the moment. As you said, it's not like they've gained a heap of attention. They're probably not getting the
they've not been in the media at all. I've not heard a single thing, and a lot of it, because it's almost as if they don't have a standout because Booker and Paul kind of cancel each other out almost.
Absolutely. A lot of the attention at the moment is going to, particularly in the West, to the Golden State Warriors, understandably so. They're back to their best, but I think the Phoenix Suns are as dangerous as any team in the league. I think they're certainly capable of being there at the pointy end of the year. But they haven't gained a lot of attention.
There you go. It's good flying under the radar.
They have.
A team that is getting attention, not for the right reason. I tell you what, lads, someone's going to have to get out the towel because my forehead must be shiny as anything.
I'm literally be able to pass out.
She's warm.
Just a question to
any other
podcasters out there. Have you ever filmed in a sauna? We are currently filming in a sauna. It is disgusting. I'm scared to put my arms up above about this angle at the moment. It's ridiculous.
This is like This is, as you said, it's not a nice heat, is it, Lee? No. This is a very, very kind of sticky, humid heat. Very reminiscent of, for any of our Australian listeners, of Queensland up in the tropics in the storm season there, the rainy season. I tell you what, there is a very good shine going on all 3 of our foreheads here. Lee's got the beanie on to cover up the forehead. Good shout there, my man.
Got to pass out.
Well, we've got a couple of teams to go. So what have you got for the Portland Trailblazers, mate?
I gave them a D+ this time round. I haven't been too impressed with what they've shown us so far. And like I said, they're probably ready to Hiroshima this bitch, but they haven't done so far.
Hiroshima this bitch.
Dame's supposedly out, and he will be out for 6 to 8 weeks after that abdominal surgery.
Mm-hmm.
what I am excited for is how Anthony Simons will perform in his absence, because so far he's been their biggest bright spot. He's been just bowling night in, night out without
Absolutely.
him.
CJ coming back soon as well.
Coming back, and I'm excited to see that. But it's hard because they do have good pieces. Norman Powell is a good offensively. He's a threat from the tree. People like Nurkic, he's putting up numbers.
Man. Low on him.
I'm not low.
Low on
I think
him.
He's putting up stats, but they're like, again,
it's like Westbrook though, putting up empty stats.
Yeah,
it feels like
they're a bit empty, but yeah, like I said, their highlights don't make up for their lowlights, which is why I've given them a D+.
I've given them a D-. They were my lowest grade across the board, I do believe. Sitting 10th at the moment, 16 and 25. I'm with you, Lee. What did you say, Hiroshima, this bitch?
Mm-hmm.
I'm here for it. I think it is this time. Like, it's time to throw in this towel. This iteration of the team has run its race.
Yes.
And now this could be an interesting little period with Dame out. You know, in the backcourt, you've got now Anthony Simons and CJ. Who knows? If it works, they perform admirably. Is that a sign? You know, do the front office say, "Hey, Dame, you've paid your dues. You've given all you can give to this team. I know you want to be a one franchise star, but, you know, go chase that ring somewhere else."
Yeah.
Or if it doesn't work, do they say, "Right, CJ, we're trading you"? But regardless, hell, do they say, let's get rid of CJ, Dame, Nurk, blow the whole thing up, because, you know, the assets they could get back could really set them up for the next decade, like OKC.
Yep.
And I'd be here for it. If they do that, you know, I think the thing is for them, they've just got to do something. You know, whether it's blow it up or, you know, trade a piece here or there, whatever the case is, they've got to do something. Likewise, and they're in the luxury tax. So for a team that's probably not making the playoffs, to be in the luxury tax is not a position you want to find yourself in.
Absolutely not.
Just quickly rattling through, Anthony Simons as well, been absolutely delighted with. Got him in my fantasy team, you beauty. Been very impressive and, you know, showing a lot of poise and maturity for a young guy. The big problem for them is on the road. Guess what their record is?
How many games have they played on the
15.
road? 15 games on the road. They're probably...
They wouldn't have won more than 5 games on the road.
I'd agree.
2-13 they sit on the road. How's that? There you go. That's it is abysmal. Just coming back to the point you said about Nurk, I just don't think he's there. Since he's come back from that injury, I just don't think he's up to pace. You know, so I think he's another piece that could be moved. D- for the Portland Trailblazers. Blow it up. Let's get rid of it. Time to move on. And there you go.
Yep.
Row.
D for disgusting, disturbing, disgraceful. The shit. Just it's absolutely horrendous how badly they've performed this year. I know they've had
other D words.
I know
dickheads.
Yes, absolutely.
Douchebags.
Warranted. All these words are warranted at the moment. They were always at risk, though, regardless of if Dame and CJ were playing, of falling back down the standings. Yeah. I think for the last few years, probably since that year that they went to the Western Conference Finals, they've just been hanging on in that playoff race.
And I think that was almost such a bad thing for them, that playoff finals against the Warriors. The fact that they thought, right, this is a team that can actually make it. Let's stick with it.
Yes, absolutely. So I think they were always at risk, but now, particularly given that they've had injuries to their key guys, I think it's about time that I would be extremely disappointed if by the end of this season they haven't made a move on at least one of those 2 main guys.
Yeah, it's time.
Because it's overdue. It's probably a few years overdue. And they're just in all sorts at the moment, the Portland Trailblazers. If I'm a Portland Trailblazers fan, I'm not hopeful for the future at all with the current core squad that they've got at the moment.
Absolutely. Let's go, lads. We've got 3 teams to go. We've crossed over the hour mark, so I hope you guys are enjoying it, sticking with us through this long episode, which we are having a blast doing. The Sacramento Kings, Lee.
Me again, I'll go. First and foremost, I want to say, I think it wasn't a bad decision to fire Luke Walton, but again, why do it like part way through the season? And in saying that, why get such a mediocre coach in Alvin Gentry? He's a great offensive coach, but the Kings don't need
They don't.
offense.
They need defense.
They need defense.
They do.
In terms of players, Darren Fox has almost dropped off in every category of his game this year.
Every statistical category he has.
Which is a shame. Harrison Barnes, he had a great start to the season. He's dropped off a bit, and I think it's due to the fact that Luke Walton used to centre a lot of plays around him.
Yep.
And it
Gentry,
wasn't
not so much.
Not so much with Gentry. A bright spot, though, which I have noticed, is Tyrese Halliburton. He's just emerged as that primary shooting guard, and he's if I'm watching a Kings game, it's to watch him, to be honest, right now.
Coincides with the news today that came out that the Kings are receiving quite a bit of trade interest for Fox.
Yeah.
So, it could be a piece, a big piece that kind of just maybe reshapes their franchise because, they sit 11th at the moment, 17 and 27. Sorry, Lee, what was your grading?
My grade, I better check that. I don't have a grade. I'd give him a D this time around. Like, are they a team striving for the playoffs? Are they a young rebuilding team? We don't know. They don't have any direction.
I've given them a D as well, largely for the part you've seen. They've shown flashes, but then they let games go. They're just, they're 6 and 13 on the road, so struggling away from home. Halliburton has been, I'm super high on him, and he's showing, what was it last year? My rookie of the year predictions were Killian Hayes and Tyrese Halliburton. And I've gone one and one. One out of two ain't bad. Killian Hayes, bust. Halliburton, very excited by him, and I think he is a star going forward. And the thing they're lacking is on-court leadership and locker room leadership. Their leader at the moment is Tristan Thompson.
Yeah.
And,
he's caught up with the Kardashians.
He can't be your flag bearer.
No.
Fox scoring an assist down this season, but they're just a perennial underachiever. The fact is they're not going anywhere. As you said, Lee, what is their direction at the minute? They're just every year stuck in no man's land. They're always on the edge of the playoffs, never quite making it.
Yep.
Maybe this year if the Portland Trailblazers plummet out, Pelicans falter, they could find themselves in that play-in, but they're just not going anywhere.
They aren't, are they?
So I've given them a D.
I've given them a C minus. The worst part of this for me is, and the reason I probably didn't rate them lower is because prior to this season, this is kind of similar to where I thought that they would end up. And that's a terrible thing because they've been down in the dumps for pretty much as long as I can remember. I
can't recall the last time they were good.
I can't either. And I'm talking since I've gotten into the NBA.
When were they good last?
I honestly can't remember the last time that they've actually performed admirably. They're one of these teams who I struggle to see any future hope for.
Yep.
Darren Fox is a good player. Wouldn't say he's a superstar. He's down compared to previous years, which is a very bad sign for the Sacramento Kings.
Just looks good when he's going downhill, doesn't he?
Yes, absolutely. And Darren Fox is one of these guys who, if they were any hope of, coming out of that dark hole that they were in, he had to keep progressing. He hasn't. The rest of the guys haven't really performed, as highly as they should. And they're sitting at 11th, and I don't think it's going to improve anytime soon.
Bro, you are on fire, my man. Continue on with the San Antonio Spurs. 2 to go.
I've given them a C minus. So maybe just under
13th
par.
at the minute, 15 and 26.
Just under par. I thought obviously the fact that losing DeMar DeRozan and Patty Mills would hurt, and it has to a certain degree. They're sitting similar to where I thought they would. Very impressed with DeJounte Murray this year, to the point where he should be an all-star this year. I'm just based off the fact that I know how the all-star voting is a bit political as well. I don't want to put all my cards in the same sort of deck to say that he's definitely going to make it. However, he has performed so well this year for the San Antonio Spurs and led from the front, and he's been the shining light for that franchise.
Yeah, I agree. I've given them C minus. C minus. I gave them a C. Likewise, been absolutely just stoked with what Murray's stepping into that number one role.
Yep.
I think he's been fantastic leading this team. For me though, the big bright spark's been Jock Landale. And the time he's got coming from the NBL Melbourne United championship winner, he has looked great in the time he's got, not only from outside, but also rebounding, getting inside. I think will be, I really hope the Spurs give him more game time. I was stoked when they signed him. So I think he just needs to keep getting game time and just keep performing because he's got real potential within this lineup. Pirtle, Keldon Johnson, Lonnie Walker, they haven't overshot my expectations. They're where they thought where I thought they would be. But they're just one of these teams, another team that's hanging around that playing area, 13th, cooled down a little bit in the last week or two, but with Murray on your side, there's potential for wins there. But
here's a quick one for you. Aussie hat on or off, regardless. Do you think Jock Landale has what it takes to be the starting big man on this team?
No, I don't think so. I think he serves a good role as a backup big man, but no.
So you don't.
I like his ability to actually stretch the floor a little bit more. If you've got those explosive guards like Walker, Murray, Keldon Johnson coming through, his ability from outside, which I don't think in the NBA is recognised enough. I don't know if they've caught on enough. I think a lot of lineups you could run with him in at starting. I just think he needs a little more exposure, a little more, I guess, ownership given to him. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. Because I like Pirtle, but I like that. I think Landale's game's a little more well-versed. I just don't think they're kind of caught on enough to where he's at.
Yeah,
so C for me, Lee.
And I've given them a C+ this year. They've slightly exceeded my expectations, especially with DeMar DeRozan leaving.
Yep. Big holes to fill, aren't they? DeRozan, Patty Mills. Yeah. Like you are cutting out a big chunk of your offense.
Yeah. But DeJounte Murray, he is the present and the future of this team right now. He's improved significantly as a scorer and a playmaker and as a leader. I like the second runners in Keldon Johnson. And I don't know if it's Jacob or Jakob, but I like Poodles.
Jakob.
Silent J.
No, but I like somewhat what I've seen this year, so C+.
Our last and final team, deep into the piece now, guys. The Utah Jazz sitting fourth at 28-14. I've given a B+.
Yep.
Now, they're on a bit of an ordinary run as of late, losing 4 on the bounce. But, you've got Gobert, who's, for some reason, he's getting borderline MVP talk.
He's probably in career best form.
Yeah. Donovan Mitchell has just been an absolute superstar and probably not getting the plaudits he deserves.
Yes.
Flying under the radar, but just continuing to show out on a nightly basis.
Yep.
Don't think the output from their, certain other players like, namely Clarkson, has been as significant. But what Bogdanovic has shown, he's averaging nearly 20 points a game.
Yep.
Being fantastic. 18 points a game? 18, 20? 18 points a game. He's looked fantastic this year and has been a big reason as to why they're continuing to perform at such a high level. The big issue for me is, what is it though? What are we getting from them in terms of how deep can they go?
Yeah.
Because we've continually got our hopes up. I recall, I get my years mixed up. Was it last year, the year prior, giving them the number 1 seed?
Yeah.
And they let me down, and they just continually let me down in the playoffs. So everything they're doing, again, that expression, taking it with a grain of salt at the moment.
Yeah.
Fourth, so, pretty happy with where they're at. But, how actually, relevant is that fourth position? How deep are they going? I don't know at the moment. But very happy with what they're getting.
I've given them a B+ as well. I think they're an excellent regular season team.
And that's the thing, isn't it?
Which they are. But like you said, it comes all back down to what they can do in the playoffs, which I hope they can do a bit this year. Likewise with you, I'm not impressed with Jordan Clarkson. I think he's putting up 8 threes a game and making about 2 of them. Well, I'm not impressed with him. I am impressed with the additions they've got in their front court in terms of bench. So I'm looking at Whiteside, he's been good as a backup center. I'm looking at Eric Pascal and I'm looking at Rudy Gay. I think they've been quite impressive.
Yep.
And Donovan Mitchell, I don't know what it is, but he definitely has gone under the radar.
He's been awesome.
This season. But B+ from me.
Right.
Yeah, look, I've given them a flat B. I think they've had another solid season, which many people expected them to have. We always knew that they would be in and around the mark. Just on Donovan Mitchell quickly, we reckon he's gone under the radar even more this season because Rudy Gobert's having so much of an incredible season, probably, as we were mentioning, could arguably be his best season so far. Do we think that's the reason? Or do we just think that there's been so many other standout players in the league this year that Donovan Mitchell's not getting his credit where it's deserved.
I think it's almost, you can look at it like it's a trident, a couple of like prongs to it, just in the fact that partly there's been so many outstanding performances from other players, partly because Rudy Gobert's been phenomenal, and partly because all the other Jazz players, Conley, when he's playing, excellent. Bogdanovic, as I mentioned, putting up 18 points a game.
Yep.
You know, they're taking almost a little bit of the shine away from Mitchell.
Even contributors to a certain extent.
Yeah. And it's just, you know, I think Mitchell is one of them players. He and Booker are similar, aren't they? They're similar players in terms of their output. They're similar players in terms of their positions, being on franchises that are certainly on the upwards trajectory and certainly finals contenders, but they at times get overlooked.
For sure.
For Booker with Chris Paul, for Mitchell with, you know, Bogdanovic, Conley, Gobert, things of the kind. They almost get lost in the wash. But, you know, I love what... Okay, last question before we wrap up here, guys. 15 team thing. Yes or no? Oh, just name answer.
Okay.
Booker or Mitchell, who would you take for your franchise?
I'd take Donovan Mitchell.
Right.
I would take Donovan Mitchell as well, I think.
Oh,
that's a tough one.
It is a tough one. I'm going to take Donovan Mitchell as well.
Just more versatile, you know.
Oh, I love Booker's killer instinct.
Yeah.
But I will take Mitchell.
Yeah.
And
there you go.
I don't know. They're hard to separate, but
guys, let us know. We would love to hear, wouldn't we? Because we can barely pick it. Who would you love to have on your team? Would it be Donovan Mitchell or Devin Booker? There you go. Hit us up. Get on to us via our socials. We're always up and about, ready for a chat. Big thank you to everyone who's spoken to us this week. Plenty of questions, plenty of engaging topics coming our way. We love tackling them. You know, you guys are what make our show. God damn, we are deep into the PCR. We've loved it.
Goodness me, I might contact Guinness World Records. Podcast filmed in the hottest location.
That's so hard.
This is it.
Ridiculous.
We're all gonna go for a cold shower.
As soon as this camera turns off, I'm taking my shirt off and all my clothes.
I was so close to going bare chested before. You're lucky I didn't. But
guys, just quickly before we wrap up, a big thank you for sticking with us this deep into the piece. We've had a blast doing it. That culminates the second part of our mid-season grading. Just quickly, a shout out, any of our YouTube listeners, if you've stuck with us to this point, we do apologize. I don't know if it's the weather, what's going on, but the video's been playing tricks and games. You know, so we do apologize to a certain extent for the video, but thank you for sticking with us. Guys, it's been a blast. We have got big stuff on the way. It's going to be a big week. Stay up to date with our socials, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok.
And this bit of news that's coming, it's not something that you have to wait weeks for. This is coming next week. So that's an episode you want to tune in.
It's set, guys. It is set. The contract, I have personally signed it myself. The paperwork is done. It's been lodged. We are all systems go. We're very, very excited about what the future holds as well. Absolutely. Check out our TikTok. We are viral now, which is awesome. We love it.
6 figures.
6 figures. We're like Pitbull, aren't we? Mr. Worldwide at the moment. You know, we look forward. We're going to have a big episode next week. Yes. Stay up to date with everything, guys. You know, we're all going to go have a cold shower together. That could be a fun bonding experience. But we can't wait to talk to you next week. Till then, love you. Bye.